Instantly, he lost his eyesight. He started shouting, "My eyes, I can't see! Please help me!" Everything became dark for him. After a while, he regained his sight. In the land of Umwaka, there lived a very proud and arrogant prince named Nkem. Nkem was feared throughout the kingdom, not because of his strength or wisdom, but because of his cruel and oppressive nature. As the only son of King Chima, Nkem was pampered since he was a child by his father the king. He never allowed anyone to discipline him, and so he grew up to be a very disrespectful young man, although very handsome. He had everything a prince could wish for: wealth, power, and was the heir apparent to the throne. His father had grown old and very weak, and Nkem could not wait for the old man to die so he could be crowned king. The queen had died some years ago, leaving the old king with his son. Nkem used his power and influence to oppress the people of Umuwaka. The villagers dreaded his coming reign. He even used his position as prince to take advantage of young women in the village, who dared not speak of the atrocities he committed. Ola was a young maiden in the village, known for her kindness and friendship with the chosen bride of Prince Nkem. One hot afternoon, she was returning from the farm, carrying fresh fruits, when Prince Nkem spotted her. He forced himself on her in the bushes, warning her never to tell anyone, especially not his intended bride or anyone else in the village. Terrified of the prince's power and what he might do, Ola returned home in silence, pretending as though nothing had happened. Days turned into weeks, and Ola began to feel different. She noticed changes in her body that she couldn't understand. Her mother, concerned one morning when she caught Ola vomiting, asked her what was wrong. But Ola, fearful of the consequences and the prince's wrath, remained silent, keeping the truth hidden. As time passed, Ola's pregnancy became visible to everyone in the village. She endured whispers and judgment from others who wondered who was responsible for her condition. Her own mother, once close and loving, now kept her distance, hurt by Ola's refusal to confide in her. Ola's life, once filled with promise and friendship, had turned into a nightmare of secrecy and shame. Despite Ola's plight, Prince Nkem did not slow down on his evil ways. He continued to dishonor young maidens in the village who were all terrified of him. One of his victims was a young maiden named Ada, who was set to marry the next day. Despite her pleas to remain a virgin for her husband, Nkem forced himself on her. Unable to explain what had happened, Ada ran away from the village at night. The whole village searched for her but couldn't find her. They were puzzled about why she would run away with her wedding date so close. She couldn't face her future husband without being a virgin, and she had no idea how to explain it to both families. News of her disappearance spread quickly, even reaching Prince Nkem, but he felt no guilt for what he had done. One evening, while walking toward the village stream, Nkem saw a beautiful maiden fetching water alone. He jumped on her, but she didn't resist at all. This made him suspicious, but he continued anyway. After he was done, the maiden transformed into a fierce-looking dwarf. Instantly, he lost his eyesight. He started shouting, "My eyes, I can't see! Please help me!" Everything became dark for him. After a while, he regained his sight. Terrified, Nkem tried to run back to the palace but lost his way. The more he tried, the deeper he wandered into the forest. The forest, dense and unfamiliar, swallowed him up, and he couldn't find his way back to the village. His mind was full of fear and regret, realizing he was being punished for his cruel actions. He wandered in the forest for weeks, hoping to see the dwarfs so he could beg them for forgiveness and ask for help to find his way back to the palace. Back at the palace, nobody knew where Prince Nkem had gone. The king and his elders started to panic. The king ordered a search of the thick forest and everywhere else, but Nkem was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of the dwarfs, Nkem was given a choice. To return to his palace, he had to give up one thing: his manhood. If he refused, he could never go back. Amidst tears, Nkem accepted the offer because he desperately wanted to return to his village. He knew that his father's death would mean he had to marry and produce an heir. Without his manhood, he feared what would happen when people found out. As he was about to leave, the dwarf told him that the child her daughter carried was his, and that he was forbidden from taking another wife. He was now married to her because of the pregnancy. Prince Nkem returned to the palace, lost in thought. He was summoned by his father, King Shima, who informed him that a maiden had been chosen to be his bride. Nkem asked what would happen if he married someone else, and the king warned him that doing so would cost him the throne. Sensing something was wrong, the king asked his son what the problem was. Unable to hold it in any longer, Nkem confessed to his father. He admitted to having his way with several women in the village, including a dwarf's only daughter who was now pregnant. The king, disappointed and saddened, told Nkem that he must face the consequences of his actions. He ordered his son to apologize to all the women he had wronged, including the dwarfs. The only way to seek forgiveness was to confess to the entire village and beg for their mercy. Nkem agreed, knowing that he would never be allowed to ascend the throne. Nkem stood before the village, confessing his sins and seeking forgiveness. As he spoke, the sky darkened, and there was a strong wind. The dwarf's daughter emerged, holding a child in her arms. She announced that the child would serve as a bridge between the land and the spirit world, and warned Nkem never to marry another. King Chima, on his sickbed, declared that Nkem was not fit to rule. The gods had revealed that the rightful heir was a child named Chidi, born to Ola. The king's brother's son, Ifeanyi, thought he would be crowned the next king, since Nkem was the only son. He began acting like he was already the king. Fearing Ifeanyi's wrath, the king secretly crowned Chidi as the new king. When Ifeanyi learned of this, he was furious and plotted to kill Chidi, but Ola protected her son, and Ifeanyi was banished from the palace. Chidi's reign began with the promise of peace, guided by the wisdom of the gods. Under the care of his mother and grandfather, Chidi grew to be a wise and just ruler, bringing prosperity to Umoka. Prince Nkem apologized to Ola and his son for all he had put them through. He moved out of the palace and lived in a quiet part of the village, raising his child with the dwarf's daughter. Nkem dedicated the rest of his life to raising his son with values of kindness, love, and respect. After many years of demonstrating genuine goodness to the people in his village, his manhood was eventually restored. He remained a single father for the remainder of his life. Our actions have consequences, and no wrongdoing goes unpunished. True leadership is not about power and dominance, but about humility and service to others. A leader must earn the respect and trust of their people by acting with integrity and compassion. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more interesting African folk tales. Thank you.